And pledge of attendance, Councilman Ford. Welcome back.
Would you please join me in prayer? As we enter the holiday season, let's be thankful for all our city and personal blessings. Let us be especially thankful for those who we rarely see but are always there to make sure our community is functioning every day. During this season, let's also not forget those in need of help in our community in order for them to have a joyful season as well. And finally, since this is a season of peace and joy, let's hope for those feelings to be felt throughout the world. In His name we pray. Amen. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see we have a proclamation, Arbor Day today, and so I will read that. I don't see anyone here to accept. I was thinking Tony might be here, but whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore I'm in standing place of Robert Halfaker, Mayor of the City of Clemson, do hereby proclaim December 1st, 2023 as Arbor Day in the City of Clemson, and I urge all citizens to celebrate this day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And furthermore, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. And witness whereof I have hereunto he set his hand and have caused the great seal of the city to be affixed this 6th day. Well, today is the 18th day, but this says 6th day of December 2023, and it's already signed. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, moving right along. Public session. I don't know. Do we want to go ahead and open it up for public session?
You mean the public session? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Well, we'll have a public session for up to the next 30 minutes. Anyone who would like to speak on anything not on the agenda for up to 3 minutes, please come forward, state your name. And given there's no mad rush to the podium from anyone in attendance, got anything for us? We will call the public session closed and turn it back over to you, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to approval of minutes, December 4th. Anybody like to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion?
Moving to approve them, right?
Yes.
You just made a motion.
Sorry.
To make a motion.
Well, I'm good with that too, but yeah,
Should we start over?
we can. I move we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
There we go. Any discussion? That was a little discussion. If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. All right. As you can see, we're really in the spirit.
Tapped out.
Good things. Now we turn over to reports, discussion, and it looks like, Allie, you're up. Discussion of the USDA grant application for pump station and sewer line upgrades.
Yes, thank you. This is just to inform you all, Andy, myself, Benji, and Dustin went to Columbia a few times to meet with USDA about a one-time grant funding opportunity that exists for South Carolina cities due to having a natural disaster last year. And so we wrote a proposal for pump station 5 and 7 in the main trunk line. And South Carolina offices looked at it. They sent it to the major USDA office in in Washington D.C. and they said it looked like a viable proposal. So we will be moving forward with that application. There's no matching requirement and there's no maximum limit. It's just until the funds are no longer there. So we will be the engineers working on the environmental and the PER that's required for the application, and then we will submit. Just want to make you all aware in the event that we have to come for a resolution to have council support.
When would the funds be available?
It's first come, first served, so they've said ASAP. So
Awesome.
as soon as the environmental, hopefully by the end of January, we'll have that and the application will be ready to go.
Any other questions? That's wonderful. So hopefully we'll have some good news shortly. Next, discuss the change in section 7-5 budgeting ordinance. Leslie?
Hi. Tonight, I was wanting to bring to your attention, and we've talked about it before, after the audit, I come before y'all and give you the budget variances because the ordinance states that we must. But it also states that you must vote on them. Well, at that point, we've already spent the money. So what I had talked to Andy, and I think a couple of you and I have talked about the fact of changing it so it just states that we would have to bring it to a city council meeting and present it, but there wouldn't be a vote. And so if it's okay, we would like to move forward in changing that ordinance. Any questions?
I think it makes sense. So rather than do it backwards, we move forward.
So if it's less than 10%, there's nothing.
Right.
Okay.
If we stay within that 10% or $10,000, it would, but it's in the audit anyway, but this would bring it to your attention, but no vote would be required.
All right. Well, thank you. Next, discuss upgrading the police department. Is it Exxon? Is that how we say it?
Axon.
Exxon body cameras. Chief?
Thank you. You all heard me talk before about the new body cameras we went to when I took office. They are the Axon body cameras that integrate with our tasers and other signal systems. The body cameras that we have been using, we've been doing our own online storage with it. However, over time, we've recognized that using Axon's evidence storage called evidence.com is more efficient and reduces the opportunity for potential risk and liability with the capturing of the video, the storage of the video, and the security of the video. So we didn't budget for it in the current budget, but we've recognized recently the necessity of having something as secure as this process. And so we'll be coming to you for in the future meeting for a budget amendment to reallocate funds for that online service. And it will also upgrade the current body cameras that we have to the latest model. And the way Axon does their contracts, they give you a new camera on year 1, and then year 2.5, they give you another new camera to replace that camera, and then year 5, a new camera. And there's also docks, so when the officers come in, they dock the camera, and it automatically uploads it into the cloud, and so the officer doesn't have to do anything in between while that process occurs, and then they just go back and tag the videos for whatever cases they are assigned to, and it's kept in that environment.
This is $40,000 a year.
From the quotes that they gave us, is about $40,000 a year, yes. And also the quote that we're doing is spreading the cost of those cameras, those 3 replacements, over the 5 years instead of making you pay it all at once. It just spreads it across.
So what happens in year 5, at the end of
Year 5, we'll renegotiate. We'll get new cameras year 5, and then we'll renegotiate. So the next year, there won't be an upfront cost like in this contract because you already have the brand new equipment, and it will be just the licensing fees to continue to use the storage. And we'll probably have what they call TAP. So another 2.5 years down the road, there'll be another replacement. So it keeps them all current with the most up-to-date cameras. They're little mini computers, and if you know anything about computers, after a couple of years, they're outdated. So that's what they're continually upgrading as we go through the process.
What is the required length of time to keep the evidence, to keep the pictures?
It depends. So if it's not relative, so our policy mandates that any interaction we have with the public, we basically have to record. So on a traffic stop, stopping somebody on the side of the road, that kind of stuff. The way we tag that is we put a retention time period on that so that if it's not related to any kind of case, it automatically drops off and deletes in evidence.com. In the current way we're doing things, it doesn't do that. Somebody's got to go back and delete all that stuff.
That's what I
So
wondered.
there's a lot of staff hours that has to go into that in addition to the process they have to go through to upload it. If it's once a case is closed in court, if it's not a major felony murder type case, the state has different retention periods, and then they drop off. So we just set that in the system as to what that retention period is, and then when it's no longer needed, it drops off.
That's pretty amazing.
Other questions?
I thought you were gonna add like another 0 on that. I think that's great.
No, we're trying to be as mindful as possible.
No, I just meant for what it does. That's
Yeah, there's,
not complaining.
Axon is one of the, if not the leader, but one of the leading companies in this arena, and they try to make it as
That's amazing.
affordable as possible.
Wow.
Thank you.
It's just things like Canvas and PeopleSoft and Banner.
Staff reports. Andy?
Just reminding everyone that offices are closed on the 25th and 26th. We had a meeting with our new Metropolitan Planning Organization, ACATs, that we're no longer in GPATs. And I just wanted to share with y'all some, what I consider instant progress, is that we were discussing the intersections in our areas that need the most attention, and we had some score rather highly. Like one, the Cherry Road one that we're working on now is number 3 in the entire district.
Wow.
And then Cambridge and Issaquena, Highway 123 in Issaquena. They're like 1A and 1B, they're kind of the same. And then Issaquena and Pendleton Road are on there. And they also have Tiger and College, Tiger and 76. So it was just nice to see that moving to the area, we actually have projects on the list, on kind of the top half of the list too.
In a really weird way, that's a good thing.
And Robert and Catherine and I are going to have some communication recommendations and findings for you probably the second meeting in January, doing some assessment right now. And then Jeremiah?
Just remind you all, the next meeting is going to be on the 2nd and on the 1st. It's our first one that we moved to Tuesday, not Monday. Also moving the meeting that was originally scheduled for the 18th of November, moving that to the 19th because we have our PCMA banquet got scheduled for that night. So we'll just move that from Monday to Tuesday. Our regular schedule.
Did you say November?
Yes.
Okay, that's so long.
We'll be reminded again.
He's got a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
He'll start coming out of it. And a lot of faith.
Write it down, he'll never tell us again. Thank you.
Plan early, but yes, we work with all.
Plan early.
Yeah, I'm like, did I hear that?
I'll never remember that.
So we'll move that. You'll remind us again, correct? That'd be great.
In October.
I do not.
Thank you, guys.
And we're the 16th of January instead of 15th.
Correct. Correct.
Both January meetings are Tuesday night. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, so that means we can't celebrate too hard on January 1st.
I'll have a month and 12 days, John.
you're gonna miss us, you know that.
Absolutely.
He said absolutely.
Not with a lot of conviction, but yeah.
Anything else, Andy? All right. I don't think I've seen an agenda with no policy action items, but that's wonderful. So we're going to move on to our other policy items. First one is consider approving final parking recommendations. Lindsay, come on up. She's smiling.
Yes. I am not presenting anything that we have not discussed ad nauseum up until now. These are the final recommendations that, based on all the conversations that we've had in the meetings, the work session, these are what your recommendations were. This is what's come from that. Meter all the parking. The Lutheran church lot, the 20 spaces in that lot will remain free. What did come from a merchant meeting that I had 2 weeks ago was the request that the prepaid metered parking be expanded to the Keith Street deck. Currently, owners, managers of businesses downtown can prepay for metered parking, and they're given a validation code, and their employees can use that code instead of paying for parking. We only offer that in the Finley deck. They asked that we expand that to the Keith Street deck. I would like to expand that to the Keith Street deck, even if it's just for 3 months, 6 months, and review it after that. But I think that based on the parking that we have downtown, we can accommodate that. That's just my professional opinion on that one.
Lindsay, do we have any way of tracking who's using that then?
Yes.
We do.
The codes are.
How many spots would you say for Keith? You track it in how many spots?
We could track uses. We wouldn't track spots because I wouldn't limit like you could because you pay by space now and not by.
Wasn't in part of this to encourage turnover and not have the employees filling up the parking spots?
Yes, but we also have to address the employee parking. And when there's going to be a shift, when we move to paying for on-street parking, there's going to be a shift to employees that will move to the deck. And this is a way to try and mitigate the expense on the hourly employees downtown and give them it's an easy, low-hanging fruit for right now while we continue to work on the repaving and striping of North Slope.
Okay,
So that's still in there?
Yes, that's
what I was going to
yes.
ask. And so when that is done, what happens to the Keith?
Then I want to evaluate how often it's being used in the Keith Street deck.
Okay.
And if there is a inordinate number of uses, and so there's a discrepancy, a disparagement between employee use and paid parking, then I think we reevaluate it at that point. But I think that I feel pretty confident that it won't make a huge impact. But
Well, and I think
I've been wrong before.
I guess what I would say that I like about the system is it would give you the option, I think, that if we saw some abuse or we wanted to cut it off for a weekend for some event, you can do that.
Yes.
You can make that code not work.
Yes.
And so that's a good thing. We have that flexibility.
The specific on-street recommendations are the 2-hour limit. 50, I printed this at 50 cents per half hour because we want to do the first half hour free. So it's the same numbers though. It's still $1 an hour, 2-hour limit. That we charge a special event rate for on-street for anytime we have special events, home games. Those rates can vary. We can set those as we see fit. no parking 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. I'm recommending that. I know that that's a hard one, but that allows for deliveries, street cleaning. It's kind of necessary. Parking deck recommendations, get rid of the 4-hour time limit, implement the tiered fee structure. Again, I broke it out by half hour, but it's still $1 an hour for the first 4 hours, $3 an hour, $5 an hour. That gives you a daily max of $23 if you go in there at 8 a.m. and you stay until 5 p.m.
Will we be
Discontinue.
able to track how many cars actually stand there for $23?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the cool part. The
Yes.
data's the cool part.
Okay. Because that would be interesting to see what that looks like.
Okay.
Discontinue the reserved football parking, and again, move to like a special event rate for football games or special events that we have downtown. And as with the on-street, that rate can be fluid. Violation and fine recommendations. Currently, we have 30 days. You have 30 days to pay, and that is not an industry standard. It's like 15 days. So I would like to do 15 days. Our system cannot, it is very cumbersome on the system to do, you get a 50% reduction for your first one annually, and then all, like, my recommendation is that all overtime, only overtime parking, not reserve parking, not any other violation, but overtime, that if you pay within 7 days, it's a 50% reduction, just across the board. If that gives you heartburn, then we don't have to do it at all. But your first one is half off annually is not a realistic.
No, that's-
We cannot realistically enforce that.
Well, and again, we can look at the information and see how many people are, is Bob's car always the one that's overtime every week?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can know that it's the same car.
Well, and we do have a nuisance.
I was going to say,
So
we've got
the
a
nuisance-
frequent flyer program.
Yeah.
And the frequent flyer program, automatically their violations are higher. And then it says in the ordinance that there's a late fee, but there's not, when do we put it on? How much is it? So my recommendation is that your first late fee is after 2 weeks is $15. 30 days, it jumps up to an additional $25. I didn't go beyond that because with the new system, we'll also have collections that can go after, and there'll be fees associated with collections if you don't pay. Be very quiet. You will be very quiet and looking and like you're pinched. Are you wanting to say something? And then finally, ordinance recommendations. I didn't touch the ordinance yet because I want to get approval to do it before I go in and make the changes. But the fees and fines are listed in the schedule. You've got the fines ordinance, and they're all listed. And then you've got the parking fees, which is your $1 per hour, $3. The time limitations, all that are listed in the ordinances. And I would like to pull the fees and fines out, make the ordinance more generic, kind of like what we did with the impact fee, the building permit fees. But I wanted to get a kind of a nod that y'all would be okay with that before I actually went in and started working on that. If I do get that, then that'll come with the first draft, the first iteration, the next council meeting.
We just thought it'd be easier for you to see it in the nuts and bolts format first and approve the actual program before we.
This is really just another discussion item.
No, you're really voting on the plan, and then we'll do the official, it's just much clearer this way, and it's not jumbled up with all the whereases and therefore herebys and all that.
But you can put it into the ordinance.
Yes.
I mean, you change it as resolution, so it's kind of,
So within if we were doing it this way, like to Bob's point earlier, if we decide to raise the fines, it won't be a new ordinance.
No, it'll either be by resolution or it'll be in the budget.
So yeah, so we decide how to do that. We don't have to
Yes.
keep voting on stuff.
What's the timeline on the meters, for example?
getting them here?
Well, based on how tonight goes, I'll be submitting the PO tomorrow morning to get the meters. They will, ideally, we will have them in by March.
Okay.
The meters themselves will get here pretty fast. It's the 2 foot by 2 foot pads that have to be installed for the meters
That's gonna be fun.
Okay.
in our coldest months. So
And then the repaving and striping of Sloan, what's the timeline on that?
I don't have the timeline on that. Nathan Hinkle has been kind of taking the lead with that one, but he has reached out to, well, he hasn't reached out. He's drafted a request for bids. I just don't, it hadn't been posted yet.
Okay.
So that's probably not till July. Guessing.
Yeah, there's nothing in the budget for it, but we will move forward with it.
So if it takes time for the meters and all that to go in place, what would the expectation for the community to say this is when they can start expecting? Because I know you said it depends on what we do tonight, but, because I think we
Spring.
got to do the education and
Spring.
so that way we can do the marketing. and-
We'll have time.
Yes.
We'll have a runway in front of us before everything's installed and ready to go.
Yeah. And there'll be a major informational push to make sure.
Other questions? So my understanding is we're needing to approve the plan.
Yes.
Okay. So would anyone like to make a motion to approve the plan that's been presented on these parking recommendations?
Make a motion, we approve the parking recommendations as presented.
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Woohoo.
All those opposed?
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you.
I'm excited to see it in place, that's all.
All right, moving to, you stand up here. Our next one.
Not going anywhere.
The Economic Development Advisory Committee recommendation for an open air trolley study.
Interesting.
So in July, EDAC had a work session. The work session originally was to discuss ways to utilize CAT during historically slow periods of the summer, to engage people who are in town for their kids are at camp, the university camps, their kids are touring college, you know, all these various people that we have in town during the summer. And very quickly, it was made very clear that you can't use CAT for that kind of stuff. So the conversation then shifted towards looking at an open air trolley that would run from the local hotels to downtown to maybe 12 Mile on a loop throughout the day to encourage people to visit our area attractions in downtown, make it easy, friendly, fun. Also be available for anybody who wants to get on at any point in the stop and ride. In that meeting, and actually Rick came in, Rick found that there was it's the trolley brokers. They lease open air trolleys long term. So the discussion continued to they would like to recommend that staff research how much it would cost to lease a couple of trolleys, the staffing, just do a deep dive into it, because instead of pulling the trigger and buying a trolley, to do a pilot program and see if it works, if it's utilized. And so that is what the recommendation is really just to give me permission to spend time crunching the numbers on it, checking the feasibility of it.
Which I think is a positive. It's probably been talked about in some form for 7 to 8 years now through
Longer.
3 or 4 iterations of council, and it's just never kind of been
Not any
time, but now
traction.
there's a lot more public support, it feels like, and merchant, merchant support, so
Yes.
with the focus on the walkability and
that-
redevelopment, I mean, it's,
That would be great.
Yeah,
can we start 2 years ago and?
I could try. So that's all.
So the plan was, though, we would end up being, when I say we had staff would drive, our staff would drive on us, so.
In that meeting, the discussion was that it should be a partnership with the chamber. That the chamber would facilitate the program. That was just part of the discussion. That potential is there. He was at the meeting and, Brian was at the meeting and was agreeable and was excited about it. I think at the end of the day, it would look the way we wanted it to look though. So, but yes, it wouldn't be like contract services. It would.
No, it would need to be, and I actually would think it should be city probably sponsored.
I would like it for it to be city, and another reason is because then we could also use it to help get the kids at Little John Camp to the rec center, and the little school trips, child development center, things we used to do with CAT all summer long that we can't do anymore.
And the reason we can't do that is because of federal funding, right? Okay, I knew that we had that
Which
discussion.
also means that we can't use CAT bus drivers to drive that trolley.
Right, okay. And then we
We
would,
could or couldn't.
Cannot.
Well, that's what I thought. So what kind of passenger, what were we talking about passenger-wise with us, researched it?
Like numbers of
It's like
passengers?
30, it's like 30. We haven't researched it, that's why I'm here.
They haven't researched it yet. That's what she's doing.
Let's do the official
It's
research.
30 to 40 passengers.
I think that, yeah, I mean, I can see that being used, I mean, going to crew events, to 12 Mile, to, I think, I'm a little iffy on the open air in July, but,
I'm more concerned about open air in February.
So what do you need? I mean, you just need to know that we want you to do that, right?
Yeah, like, yes.
I think that's pretty unanimous across the board, so.
yeah, that would be great.
It's under policy, so they don't need to officially go on.
I think we have to make a motion.
All right, so would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that staff research an open-air trolley program for the city of Clemson.
Second.
Did you get that, Jeremiah?
I know.
Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, unanimous. All right, thank you. Moving on. Benji, it's your time. Consider a resolution to the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority to maintain available cash on hand for its matching obligation to cover our portion of the matching requirements for the $10 million SCI skip grant. There we go.
Yes, this is part of the Pelham to Clemson project, and we met with RIA about a month ago, and they want to require us to have a resolution that we will maintain cash on hand to cover the portion of the skip grant the city is responsible for. Anderson County and Pendleton will also have to do the same. And where the estimated cost of that portion of the work is $14 million. And what we need to have on hand right now, we think, is about $1,350,000, around that range. So,
Well, you've got that lying around. You have that lying around.
yeah, I think it's been, Lizzie's got it lying around.
She's shaking her head.
Yes, we'll have to have that to secure that money for that portion of the work. So we broke the skip grant out, so we'd be able to complete that before the federal timeline of basically July of 26.
Okay.
They're kind of making this stuff up as they go along. They just kind of say, we've never had this money before, and people have different strategies for how to use it and how to incorporate it. So they just said this would make everyone feel better with their paperwork and tracking.
Do we need to include that amount in our motion, or or how comfortable are you that that's going to be the amount you're not going to come?
We don't think it's going to be a whole lot more. We're going to be reviewing the 90% GMP for the project, and that's the engineer's estimate at the moment with using the pricing from the construction manager at risk.
So if we did the motion at 10% of the total grant,
Then that
that
Well, it
would,
needs to be more than 10%
Yeah, it wouldn't
because
reach
that portion of the work is more than $10 million.
okay.
So it's got to cover the work that we don't do with the skip grant. So we'll have to pay for a part, well, part of it will be paid for, either bond or if we can
What's
get
saying
away
is
with it.
you
He said.
don't have to come back to us. Is there a way that we can do this? So if it's not like,
I think you can just say we obligate ourselves to holding the required match.
The required match.
Because we have the cash to have a fudge factor.
Okay.
So the way it's written, I think is good for that.
So we'll know for certain pretty close next month. But that's right now, this is a 60%, we've got a 60% GMP already.
90% at the end of January.
You could
Did you have a question?
stop the motion at obligation. You could just read it to stop at obligation.
Yeah, Andy's right.
All
To
right.
me, it's matching obligation, period.
No other questions? If not, would somebody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that the city of Clemson maintain the available cash on hand to meet its matching obligation for the infrastructure authority.
Second.
Any other discussion? For all those in favor, raise your right hand. All right,
Thank you, Benji.
thank you. All right, we get the mayor council reports, comments, new business.
I have two things. Number one, this past, I think it was past Saturday, Lisa Halo and Green Crescent Trail and got together and they did a with trees upstate and did a tree planting last Saturday on the new portion of the trail on the Methodist Church property to replace a good number of trees. It was probably 20 trees that were replaced there along the trail. And then the second item to forward onto staff from some guy named Fran McGuire. He actually did some research and he found, Chief is gonna love it, noise cameras. I don't know if you forwarded that on to any of the rest of you, but with some of the noise issues we have, realize that you cannot issue tickets from noise cameras, but maybe a technology that we could look into to identify issues and provide education and all that kind of fun stuff. But there are noise cameras now that traffic, in areas of traffic that measure noise levels and all that kind of stuff. I'll forward the information on to you, Andy.
Frank's got some time on his hands.
As some of you know, the Shaw Center's been sponsoring the picket painting for the Rotary Park. And I put out an announcement, some of you have seen, but it's going to be January the 6th. And so those of you that I've sent it to, please push that out because time is of the essence and with the holiday season and everything else. But the 6th is the first Saturday in January, and it'll be at the in the cafeteria auditorium of the Child Development Center. And it will be on the city calendar that comes out at the first of the month, but it doesn't give, there's just not a lot of time to kind of get the word out. So, and Bob, I'll send it to you so maybe you can push it out over to the Methodist Church. But we've already got an announcement put together. So
And what time does it start?
it starts at 10, it'll be 10 to 4, and it's really, we've got roughly 100 painted, but this is like a community-wide effort, and you know, it could be children, adults, I don't care who comes and paints, but everything will be there.
Awesome.
And there's still a few more locations we can do, but I'd love to get about 100 knocked out that day.
That'd be great.
Okay. Any other announcements? All right. Then we'll go into executive session to consider appointments to city boards and commissions. Would somebody like to make a motion?
Make a motion, we move to executive session.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you. We shall would somebody like to make a motion
To end.
to end executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right. We are back from executive session, and I'd like to turn it over to John.
Okay, I'd first like to make a motion that we nominate Peter Hyatt and Bailey Dull for the Parks and Recreation Commission.
Second.
Second, all right. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right.
I'd like to make a motion that we nominate Seth Sanders for the BZA.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right. We will come back and discuss the other appointments for our meeting next in January. So there's no other discussion related to the appointments. Anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right. Thank you all.
You trained him well, John. You let him have. Trained him with passing the torch.
John?